Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to be continuing on with our Tanlandian Civil War breakdown, and this is episode 1 of the war. So we're going to talk about the first part, and then the next time I will do this again, we're going to be talking about the second part. So without further ado, let's get into the video. On Wednesday, February 5th, February 5th, 2025, at 12:21 p.m., the once former leader of Thailand, Chakan Saiton, and Tanzanian ambassador Aro Suyumia were assassinated. With Chakan being killed, he would be immediately replaced by his second command, Pol Hun Chun. Chun informed Emperor Hirohito about the death of Aro, and they were both very angry that the assassins from both of these important individuals were part of an unknown group known as the Tanlandian Democratic Army, which means they were Tanlandians that have decided to rebel against Chakan's principles and Tanzania's occupation and protection of their country. Their goal was to assassinate Chakan and replace him with one of their members to rule the country and get rid of the Tanzanians. As for the plan of Aro's death, they wanted to send a message to Tanzania that Thailand would be free from their rule and they would not be their puppet anymore. But their plan failed because the two assassins that were there when they launched their attack were also killed, which would later give the Tanlandian Democratic Army a sign that two of their members were killed and both armies were aware of their presence. The leader of the group would be a veteran of the Mongolian Revolution. His name was Sufyan Wichyang. Sufyan fought in the war on the side of the Tanzanian Empire because, like other men he managed to recruit, believed that Tanzania was their friend, and if they fought for them, they could be granted anything. Sufyan hoped that their old leader would be given the choice to ask for their country's independence and still have Tanzania's military protection, but instead he chose to still be a military puppet to Tanzania. Sufyan also saw what the Tanzanians did to other countries that were once allies or had been occupied by them. Tanzania's old allies were forced to follow Tanzanian orders and codes, and if they refused them, they would be punished or sentenced to death as a form of intimidation. Also, what he learned from the war is that if you were defeated in battle, you must end your life as a form of honor to Tanzania, proving your loyalty to them. But if you did surrender to the enemy, they would see you as a coward and execute you for false crimes of treason. Sufyan was tired of seeing his country being used as a pawn for Tanzania's wars and expansion of their militaristic and imperialist ideals, so he had to take action. Now with Chakan dead, Sufyan and his group prepared their assault on the military base located in the Talu jungle. Sufyan hopes that if they can take the base and capture the supplies they needed, they could hold the base as a stronghold for them. If his plan fails, he would send letters to the Silent Peaks in Greenland asking for help. As for Chun's and Hirohito's forces stationed at the bases and military checkpoints, they were ordered to be cautious, and if they were attacked by the rebels, to shoot them down, and if they had managed to capture any of them, they wanted the survivors to be kept alive for questioning. The next morning, on Thursday, February 6th at 9:59 a.m., Sufyan and his units attacked a Tanzanian base within Talu jungle known as Fort Sumo. Sufyan and his army managed to wipe out the defenders of the fort and capture two survivors that were Tanlandian loyalists. Also within the fort, they managed to destroy the Tanzanian tanks, but when they were looking for some supplies, come to find out the base had used the supplies they had left against them. Sufyan needed supplies, so he decided to contact the leader of the Silent Peak Islands, General George de la Cruz, to request for some help. Sufyan told George that he needed supplies for his men to continue their fight for independence, and also if he could negotiate with Greenland to send some soldiers to aid them as well. George told Sufyan that he would contact President Leon and see if he can provide what they needed. Leon would receive George's call and would be given the information that Sufyan told George about a request of supplies and soldiers. Leon would then tell George that he could provide supplies to Sufyan for now, but as for soldiers, he would have to wait 3 to 4 days for them to arrive. Sufyan would receive the word from George telling him that Greenland would be sending them supplies by airdrop at their location, and that Greenland would be sending soldiers, but it would take a while for them to be there. Sufyan accepted the offer and thanked George for his help. Leon, after dealing with the situation, decided to call another ally besides the Salapines to help him with this war, which would be Greentopia. Presidents Giv and Leon discussed about the situation and both agreed to help Sufyan and his Tanlandian Democratic Army get rid of Tanzania and help Sufyan run his country as a democratic nation and ally to their cause. But what both allied forces didn't know, Tasmanian communicators managed to hack into the conversations Sufyan, the Salapines, and Greenland had, which meant that they also needed a new ally to help them. And the country that Tasmania would make an alliance with would be Brazil. Emperor Hirohito of Tasmania had called the leader of Brazil, King Bruno Santos I, to discuss a proposition that he had for Brazil. Hirohito told Bruno that if they could help them prevent Greenland from reaching the Salapines, and help them reunite Thailand under their occupation again, they in return could help him reconquer the territories he once lost from Greenland. Bruno, hearing this offer, agreed to help if Tasmania promises to keep their word and give him the resources he needed in order for his plan to work. Along with the promise that Brazil could occupy the Salapines. Hirohito agreed to giving what Bruno wanted as promised, and both leaders ended their conversations and began to prepare their forces. Tasmania's plan is to isolate the area where the rebels are stationed to prevent them from expanding their infiltration, and when the supply drop lands near the area that they are stationed, they would send a unit of men to take the supplies for themselves, which would leave the rebels with nothing and would have to force them to contact Greenland to send ships to their location, which would then be faced with the Tasmanian Navy that would be tasked to destroy any foreign ships from reaching the southern harbors. Greenland and Greentopia's first strategic action is to send troops to the Salapine Islands to set up defenses to prevent Tasmania from launching a counter-offensive, which would take them 4 days to reach the islands. On Monday, February 10, 2025, at 10:33 a.m., Sufyan and some of his men went to the location where Greenland had dropped the supplies they needed yesterday. As Sufyan and his men approached the supply pile, they approached with caution and started to grab as much as they could, but then out of nowhere, Tasmanian machine guns opened fire, and then came the sounds of multiple tanks heading towards them. Sufyan ordered his men to retreat and to just take some of the food, water, and ammo. A couple of the men had managed to take out 2 of the tanks and a couple of Tasmanian soldiers, but were killed. The general that led this ambush upon Sufyan's unit was General Yuso. Yusu had managed to stop Sufyan's forces to get the rest of the supplies, and instead ordered the rest of his men to take the supplies that were left to be stored in their arsenal at Fort Nuruma. Alright guys, so this is part 1. We're going to go ahead and just end it right here because it's a very long video and I don't want to make it too long, so we're going to continue with part 2 sometime next week. I wanted to say thank you guys for listening in, and I promise part 2 will be coming out next. Peace. Also, there may be a package that could come in later today, and I may be doing another video about that, but we'll see if it does arrive here or not. But if not, then don't worry about it. But if it does, I'll post it and you guys will be aware. But I just want to let you guys know that, and like I said, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. And peace.